Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions.
Not guaranteed.
Well, maybe.
Right.
Life is a fight.
It is.
In business, every day is a fight.
Pretty much.
So, hey, what's your problem?
Yes, thank you, John David Wells. With the Wells Report, check him out on Facebook, John David Wells. Jon, I want to say, David Wells. Think of the baseball player from the late 90s, early 2000s, David Wells. And I think that's how I remember him, but all around a good guy. He's the voice of this illustrious podcast. This is the What's Your Problem podcast, where we talk to business owners and business professionals around the Middle Tennessee area, and even sometimes beyond, about that one thing. It's always something that's kind of keeping you up at night, that nudges you. It could be big, could be small, and we might have a solution for it, meaning me. You never know. This is a video and audio podcast, so pick your poison. If you don't want to watch my ugly mug doing these things, just listen to it. We're on all the different platforms. Check us out, whatsyourproblempodcast.com. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with jimmccarthyvoiceovers.com, and today we've got a great guest, Mr. Dan Rogers. Welcome, sir, to the show. How are you?
I am well. Thank you very much for having me. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. You reached out to me several weeks ago, and you were very You were like, I want to be on the podcast. I'm like, dude, that's half my battle right there, is finding somebody eager to be on the podcast.
What's fun is you say eager now, and you said you were very ego. I was like, oh yeah, that's totally me.
That's totally
ego.
You.
Absolutely.
But, based on a conversation that you wanted to get on a podcast, we talked for an hour.
Yes.
About all sorts of things, sales, business, all those cool things that we normally talk about on this podcast. But before we get into that, we're going to do what we call the random five, and it kind of gets things going, gets energy going. Are you ready? You've listened to an episode before, correct?
Absolutely. I listen to you. I'm a regular listener.
You've listened to all 88 episodes.
I'm not 88.
88, maybe 87. We'll go with that. Actually, at this time of this episode, it might be in the 90s. So
fantastic.
There we go. Question number one.
Sure.
What two totally normal things become really weird if you do them back to back?
Brushing your teeth and drinking orange juice.
That's a good one.
It's just not the experience anybody wants.
I appreciate the fact that you thought of that immediately. Almost immediately. Question number two, if you could give everyone just one piece of advice, what would it be?
So I think there's a variant of this question, which is the one thing to anything. I think the one piece of advice I would give to anybody is there is not one thing. As soon as you realize that there's not one thing in business, in sports, in relationships, and that you realize that generally speaking, when people ask you, tell me the one thing that got you to the greatness, they just really don't know what they're talking about. Or they're looking for a shortcut, and for you to provide that shortcut that you earned all that time. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is no one thing.
There is no one thing. But it's always something, or some things.
It's some things.
Combination of
things.
Question number three.
Sure.
What would you like to know more about, but haven't had the time to look into it?
Music.
Really?
Yeah, so I wasn't brought up around music. My mom was a piano player, but my experience with music was the recorder that I got in like third, fourth grade, and I would just see how long I could play the same note. And just
three blind mice?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so I would like to be able to understand the fundamentals and the basics behind music. Marcellus, what is his last name? Famous jazz player.
I want to say Wallace?
I think so.
Yeah.
He does this YouTube where he talks about the fundamentals of jazz and how the start of it, the two-step, the three-step, and the swing and all these things. You're like, that is neat. That was interesting. And I just really didn't have the experience. I'd love to know more about music if given the chance.
Never too late to start, right?
Yeah.
I think we're on question number 4, correct?
Yes.
I was in radio. I'm bad at math. What country do you never want to visit? You never want to visit.
How the country for old men? If that's a movie, I'm trying to buy some time here. The country that I never want to visit, I think North Korea is going to be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
I think second behind that might be
Antarctica.
Not a country, but I would totally love to go there. I would say some of those super corrupt middle African countries where it's just really dangerous. I think I could avoid that as well.
Right.
But
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm racking my brain as what country would I not. I guess I don't need to go to India.
Oh, that's interesting. Need is not. I don't think we're talking about need.
I guess if I had to go, I would, but I mean, I've never desired to go there. I guess.
All right, so check this one out. It's India.
Right.
In India, on a yearly basis, they have a lot of people that are still killed by tigers. There's 1.7 billion people in a country.
Tigers aren't doing nearly good enough because there's a lot of people.
But there's still so much wild open range available that tigers live freely and hunt humans. Like, that's how big that country is.
But I mean, you think about, different countries you'd never want to go to. I mean, a lot of people might say Cuba. I'm like, I would love to go to Cuba.
I'd love to go to Cuba.
I mean, I think that would be fantastic. Maybe Venezuela, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. Maybe that's something we can find common ground
Sure.
on. Okay, what wrong assumptions do people make about you? Final question.
I have a trained outgoing personality. What that means is I have some natural tendencies towards outgoingness.
Right.
But I'm really shy. Like, not many people would gather the fact that because I'm in sales, I can, get up and talk at a moment's notice about anything. I don't have a problem with words. But there are times in a networking situation, like we are in a networking group together.
Yeah.
And there's times where I walk in and I see all the people talking and I just can't get to my seat fast enough. Like, if people come over and talk to me, all good.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I feel like there's an interruption. Like, I'm in the business of interrupting people. So I just want to be in a conversation for either totally selfish reasons or not selfish reasons at all. But anyhow, like,
you don't want to make small talk.
Small talk. It's a necessary evil, and there's time and a place where I just don't have the time or the mental bandwidth for small talk. I would choose to be shy in those situations.
Well, how do you make small talk into meaningful talk?
I think that you have to be a professional understander of what is trying to be accomplished. And when I say professional, like, give it some research.
Yeah.
I think that the willingness to ask deep questions is a skill that a lot of people don't have. I think that the willingness to allow people the freedom and space to answer a tough question that might be getting personal is tough for a lot of people to have. I think that genuine interest in other people is tough for a lot of people to have. And so maybe that's what I'm talking about, like the shyness. Maybe my preference is not to share if somebody's not going to share back with me, not to be interrogated if they won't allow me to interrogate them. So, it's an interesting thing, like how to have a conversation that gets to places. I mean, you got to start with the fundamentals, I think, which are Ford questions, like the friends, occupation, recreation, and dreams. But generally speaking, ask people about them and just sit back and relax.
Be them centric. I talk about that all the time.
So missed. It's just, we are not in a them-centric
or
society.
us-centric. We're not we are in an us-centric society, but it's mostly from what you're posting on social media to the conversations you're having. I mean, getting into your background before we get into the meat and potatoes of these conversations, Dan has got a tremendous background in sales and selling, similar to mine with the car business and things. So you can imagine why we had probably well over an hour-long conversation the first time we spoke on the phone when you reached out, which I vastly appreciated because to me, it's fun to talk about that stuff.
It's what got you here.
Yeah.
We all got here somehow. And generally speaking, there's only a small certain percentage of people who woke up, they're 5, they're 7, they decide what they want to do, they go to high school and they go to college and they end up doing what they want to do for the rest of their life. There's a part of me that's just super jealous of those people.
Right.
At 11, I'm going to be a dentist. And they go off to become a dentist and they're super happy at it. Like, man, that is not the path that I took.
But I think a lot of people who are that self-aware that early, they're rare.
Weird?
They're rare. I think honestly, those are the nerds. Those are the people that, that were picked on and made fun of because they were just hyper aware. They knew exactly why they were here.
I like the word in that particular situation, peculiar, which is they stand out. It's not bad. It's not good, but it's like a Tiger Woods is a person who stands out as a person who he probably is super interesting to talk about if you want to talk about golf.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, that's all he's done.
I'm sure he's done other things, but I mean, it comes down to identity.
Yeah.
My identity didn't really start coming into fruition until I became a drummer. And I always knew I wanted to be a drummer. And I became a drummer when I was about 12, 13 years old.
Okay.
Because my parents finally broke down and bought me a rinky-dink drum kit to get me started. And that really helped my identity. But up until that, it was dirt bikes, off-road vehicles, RC cars, things of that nature that I would build. But they were kind of nerdy and geeky in a way. But the cool factor didn't kick in because that was my true identity.
Sure.
And purpose and focus for many years was playing the drums.
Yeah. So my identity and focus for many, many years was up into college was athletics. I was an athlete.
What'd you play?
In college, I did baseball and track.
Okay.
And in college, I thought I had an identity being set up, which is to become a police officer. I went to my degree is in criminal justice, which is a worthless degree. They ought to outlaw the thing.
Right.
And then I went to the police academy, did well in the police academy, and graduated from the police academy. And this is in call it the early 2000s, middle 2000s. And in California at that time, getting a job as a police officer, there'd be like the city of Oakland, I was in a test, 2,000 people would show up for like 11 jobs.
Right.
And I wasn't in the demographic that they were looking for. They wanted people like who were from the community. I just wasn't from that city. There's all kinds of things going. So I'm this guy who was perpetually going to be a cop. Once I met a girl who didn't want to date a cop,
Changes everything.
So I'm still married to that girl, so it kind of worked out. But there's this piece of me that I still think I identify as a police officer. So I went from thinking I was going to be a police officer. So then I was in sales, started selling cars at 19.
Right.
Sold cars off and on for 10 years. Always was selling something when I wasn't, in the police academy or traveling. And then I realized that I was the identity of a salesperson.
Yeah.
And which is fine, but there's also some stigma that goes with it. Like as soon as I would be talking to somebody about an idea, they're like, "Oh, what are you trying to sell me now?" So there's a little bit of a, like, I gotta kind of like be treading lightly around my friends when it comes to like an idea that I have or a new business venture or something like that, because they've already heard me pitch a lot of stuff. And so now my identity is probably less career centric and more father centric. I think we can just like a little transition of what we think is important or what we think we need to have and be important.
Do you teach your kids about sales and selling?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you?
Yeah. So perfect example, 2 days ago, my son wanted to have a lemonade stand, and he had a lemonade stand. Him and his little buddies had it out there between the four of them in a few hours, and a little bit of a sunburn. They made $60 between the four of them. So my son made $20. I was like, "Hey, so what?" And true story. This is like what I said. "Hey, so what are the cost of goods?" So we paid Dylan's mom $2 for the cups, and then we paid Charlie's mom $3 for the lemonade. I was like, "Okay, so what was your actual net?" My net was $21, and so my son's 11.
Yeah.
So we've sold mistletoe. Guess who they have to? They have to get the mistletoe. Who gets the mistletoe? Dad, because I've got a pole saw.
Yeah.
And so they got to pay for the service to have me cut the mistletoe. Who gets the bags? Dad buys the bags. And so they got to pay me for the bags. So absolutely, they are in sales. My daughter, my 13-year-old today, same thing. She says, "Dad, I want to get Snapchat on my phone." I said, "You're 13. I don't know if that's the right time." She's like, "What do I need to do in order to get Snapchat on my phone?
What's the one thing holding you back from letting me have it?"
I said, "Your brother just wrote a 4-page paper on why he should be allowed to have YouTube."
Yeah.
I said, "Until I see a 4-page paper on what you want to do, how you want to use it, what rules you're going to create, and what are going to be the ramifications if you don't follow the rules, until I see that, it's a hard no." And she's like, "Okay, so do you want this like typed or do you want it written out?" It's like, let's go with written out to start to keep it easy. And then if we need to go type, we'll go type. She's like, "Is there anything else?" Which is a great sales question. It's one of the best sales questions ever. She's like, "Is there anything else?" I was like, "If you mess this up, we won't be able to revisit this for years." She's like, "Okay." Okay. What's interesting, so what I gave her is not a no, but a really hard yes.
You told her pitch me on it.
Yeah, I said basically
write a proposal.
Yes. I'm not interested, but I'll see what the market is like on this particular thing. So My wife runs a company. She actually has an email marketing agency / sales agency. I'm the sales IQ behind her company. And we hope to God one of our kids takes over her company. And if I could get at least one more of my kids into the field of sales with me coaching them, oh my God, they're going to be juggernauts.
Well, not only that, it's just getting them to understand that life, this is a world of a sell or be sold nature.
Yes.
That, the environment and ecosystem we're living in is you're either selling or you're being sold.
100%. In sales, I give several presentations on sales, and one of them, the topic is everything in life is sales.
Yeah.
Try me on. And it's your credit card interest rate is too high. The steak is not cooked the way you want. The garbage man is knocking over your trash cans, like using the right words to compel your garbage guy to not knock over your trash cans. When we talk about sales, I also use the word compel. If you're trying to compel somebody to do something that they're not doing now, you have to use the right words. So words matter.
My question is there anybody, there's so many sales trainers out there teaching people how to sell and all that stuff. Is there anybody training people on how to deflect good salespeople? How do you combat them? All these different techniques and word tracks and things of that nature. Yeah. Is there anybody out there training? Okay, when you get told this, here's how to get around it.
So I think there's a limited amount of that. I think that as a seller of stuff for a long time, the Rolodex or the file index cards that people have that they're able to use to deflect salespeople is weak. Like there's not that many actual true reasons. There's acute conditions and there's actual real conditions, acute and chronic conditions when it comes to like why they can't say yes. But Chris Voss does a great job in his book, Never Split the Difference.
Yeah,
and when he first,
it's a great book.
It's a great book. And so in his little thing, he says, there's 4 or 5 different ways you can say no very politely.
Yeah.
And when somebody, like whatever your pitch is to me, if you were to say, hey, Dan, would you like to do a podcast with me? My first way of saying no very politely to you would be a podcast.
Yeah.
And then you'd start selling a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then a little bit more detail will come out. Like, I need you to come to my house. I need you to be in my living room. I need you to put on the headphones. Gosh,
this sounds really familiar. I feel like you're hitting upon a very familiar scenario. How am I supposed
to do that, Jim? I've got a job and work. How can I come see you?
Yeah.
Well, and then you're gonna. But it's ultimately there's salespeople are the worst people for the industry of sales. We ruined the phone. Fact. Mm-hmm. We ruined mail. Fact. We ruined email. Fact.
Well, marketers ruin that pretty much.
Yes.
So
sellers need to be talking to the right person about the right thing, about the right time. And if you're missing on any of those things, you're going to get the not interested now, which is that they're not actually telling you why they're not buying. So, and then we want to combat that, but like, what is the real reason? Like, we as salespeople are not elegant in our acceptance of the words. If somebody says to me, I'm not interested, it just means they're not comfortable to tell me the truth, or they don't have time to tell me the truth. So, and we've ruined it for people. Like, I'm in a contract. If somebody tells me I'm in a contract, that doesn't actually end the conversation.
Right.
Like that used to work, but I can get around that. So ultimately, if there's a way for people to get a salesperson off the phone, it is probably the push, kick the can down the road. If I was to go with one, hey, this is not, I know what you're talking about. This is not a top 15 priority for me or my company right now. Things change. If things change, I'll call you back, or give me a call in 6 months and we can revisit the conversation there.
What are your top 15 priorities right now?
Me. Yeah. Oh, so that's the question. So, hey,
that's a them-centric question.
So,
oh, interesting. What are your top 15 priorities?
Hey, so I appreciate the question, and that would be my stuff that I got to work through, and I'm not going to just go ahead and tell you everything, but it's just not top 15 priority for me now. So just give me a call back in 6 months.
I mean, actually, what about the top 3?
So you have a chance to call me back in 6 months and I'll take the call.
Do you just not want to talk to me right now?
Yep.
Okay. Why?
Take it easy, Jim. So, and that's that salesperson that people like, God damn it. I'm in an elevator with this person. I'm on the phone at my office or in my home or my car, and this person's on the phone. I can hang up at any time, but I feel like I'm in an elevator and they've pushed the stop button. You don't have control.
So you think that if a person's really giving you the stiff arm like that, it's good for us to take a beat and say, completely understand. Do you mind if I follow up and just keep loose contact with you over the next couple of months, like you're talking about? As long as I have something of value to reach back out to you for. I'm not just going to say, hey, how are you doing? Yeah. I'm going to make sure I appreciate the fact that you don't have the time right now. I get we're not a top 15 priority for you right now. But what I promise you is that every time I reach out, I'm going to have something for you. Is that fair?
Sure. So you actually go with a permission-based follow-up. I don't go with a permission-based follow-up because you said, can I follow up with you? Like my phone dials every single number on the planet.
Right.
My email dials can get to any email. I can write an envelope or a piece of mail to any address in the world. So I don't need permission to follow up with somebody. Right. I'll just say, hey, it sounds like this is not a good time. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a call in 6 months.
Right.
I take control of the follow-up process.
Right.
When we give the follow-up...
That's not supplicating.
No. So when we give the follow-up process to the sellee, the buyer, the prospect, and we say, I sent you an email, call me back when you can. Hey, I left you a voicemail, give me a call back. When you say, email me back, call me back, message me back, throw a smoke signal up in the air, and I'll come running. Mm-hmm. And until they do, if you come back into the sales cycle before they do, you are a needy trick punk.
Well, especially if you're just following up to do the same thing on the same product you've pitched. Obviously they're not taking action on it. There's something wrong. Yeah. Hey, just want to follow up and make sure. I hate that. I even hate saying follow up. Something about the last conversation we had just told me that this probably wasn't a fit for you. I always want to find out and dig deep what that might have been.
Yeah, and 100% agree. And so when I go with a control the follow up timeline, and I call back in 6 months. Hey Jim, it's Dan. 6 months went by, as promised. I'm calling you back. Did I catch you in the middle of something?
Right.
And so,
is this a good time?
Would never ask that question.
Really?
I form it into a negative question.
Well, I mean, I've always been trained to never say, is this a bad time? Is this a good time to talk?
So I didn't say, is this...
Yeah, I have a few minutes.
When we go for the psychological no question, which is, sounds like I caught you in the middle of something. Imagine you're in Nordstrom's and the guy walks up to you in the shoe department. You need to buy a pair of shoes. Yeah. And the shoe guy walks up to you and says, "Hi, welcome to Nordstrom's. My name is Dan. Can I help you?" And you say no. So our natural reflex answer is no. Right. So I'm shooting for the no equals the answer that I actually want. Sounds like I cut you in something. So it sounds like this is a bad time. Sounds like this is a bad time, which is an assumption on my part, and they're going to reflex and say no. Right. Which actually is the answer that I want. No, this is not a bad time. And people will kind of chuckle like, "Oh, that was good. You got me. What's up? What are you selling?" So when we ask a binary question, yes or no, and we don't explicitly know the answer, try to go for an autonomic response, which is to have them say no, which is the natural response. Gives you 45 seconds. Yeah. It gives the...
This is where you don't have a relationship with the person.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. But even my wife, if I call her unannounced, she's a busy person during the day. She's got... I'll say, "Hey, babe, this is Dan. Hey, babe, did I catch you in the middle of something?" Mm-hmm. Yeah, call me back in 10 minutes.
So that's kind of like a default for you.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's. I find it to be the utmost respect of people's time.
I like that. I'm going to give it a...
Hit that.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I like it.
So, and here's the anecdotal experiences I've had using the negatively framed question. And there's a lot of people who like it. There's a whole... two battlefronts, if you will. Like, do you ask people how they're doing? And I empirically say no. I've done the data. I've had hundreds of calls with "how are you doing" and hundreds of calls without doing it. And there's all kinds of other people who've done this data. Gong.io's done it.
I asked that question. I use that in like I do a little bit of creative people training for general sales stuff, and I call it warming up the cold call. And I say, get the fact that it's a cold call out there and out of the way. Say, look, this is a cold call. You hate getting them. I hate making them. Let's just get that out of the way. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's not a bad question.
That's not a bad question. I've got this is what I'm doing. Okay. Here's something that I can bring to the table for you. Just want to start a conversation and a possible relationship with you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally fair question.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's part of what I say is that a lot of people ask how you're doing, but honestly, sir, I want to know, how are you? When was the last time somebody genuinely asked you?
So you're onto something. So I actually, if you just ask somebody how they are, it's the person at the grocery store, it's the guy at the movie theater. Oh, how are you doing today, sir? Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? I'm going, like, we're not prepared to hear the truth.
Right.
And so if I just lost my dog, my mom, my job, and you ask me how I'm doing, what I am really compelled to do is lie to you right off the bat.
Right.
I'm fine. And so I don't put people in the position where they need to lie to me.
Right.
And I say, if I want to ask them, like my wife asks this question, I don't like it. Like, hey, Dan, how are you? You're calling me in the middle of the day. Like, you can take an extra 45 seconds so when we do the, like, how are you?
Yeah.
Or you can just ask me what you want. You don't need to weigh in on that. And so she's a big how are you person, and I'm not a big how are you person. So I go for the caught you in the middle of something. This is a bad time. And if they say this is a bad time, which is which happens to me all the time. Hey, this is a bad time. What's this about? So I saw that you're the new CFO. I saw that your company just bought this. I saw this. This is what I researched. This is what I know about you. Whatever my reason for being there is contextually based. And I think I've worked with other people who've had this exact same contextual thing where you've had a loan for a long time. You got kids going to college. It doesn't matter. Like, there's something that's contextually where you can find. And they say, oh my God, yes, I totally want to talk about this. Can you call me back in 20 minutes?
Right.
Or they say, that's actually a top 10 priority of us right now. Hang on 1 second. Let me get rid of this other call and I'll come right back.
Right.
This is a story. This is a true story. I call a guy Virag. This is one of my best sales moments ever. I call Virag, and he's a CFO of this company. I've been chasing him for a long time. And I finally get him on the phone. And hello. I was like, hey, Virag, this is Dan. You wanted me to give you a call back. He's like, did I catch you at a bad time? He's like, buddy, I am right in the middle of sacrificing 6 goats. Totally bad time, bro. But do you want to come to a party? I was like, no, man, I've been calling you about this thing about you in your company. He's like, I totally want to talk to you, but not now. Call me back tomorrow, same time. Click.
Yeah.
$250,000 technology sale. What was interesting about that one is, and I use that story all the time because people oftentimes, and what he told me later is, I thought you were my brother who was bringing something to the party because he has a phone number very, very similar to mine.
Yeah.
I thought you were my brother.
Yeah.
People will answer the phone in the middle of anything. Like, Virag was in the middle of sacrificing goats and he picked up the phone. Like, think about anything that a human has done, somebody's answered the phone while they're doing that thing.
Right.
And so if you just say, hey, it sounds like it cut you a bad time, whether it is or not, they'll say, yeah, I'm actually firing somebody right now. I thought you were HR. I've had that as well. Yeah. Call me back in an hour. What it does is it allows that, because it's a mental shift question where they had to, like, wait, bad time, is this my bad? They have to slow down.
Yeah.
They can't reflex no. And just your first 30 seconds is, I believe it needs to be incredibly canned.
Yeah.
Scripted. Even the I script into my talk tracks, my cold calls.
Really?
Oh yeah. I'm too polished. I've had so many people tell me you're too polished. You sound so slick. So, I mean, that's like an ego. I've coached
telemarketers before on their scripts. Mm-hmm. And, I stop them and I go, look, I can tell you're reading. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take that line again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Well, what do you mean? I said, I do this for a living with voiceover people that want to get into it and everything. And I said, I train people to sound less like they're reading.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And so I have a strict like every single word, I'll spend hours crafting 35 seconds to make sure it's very, very compelling. And then when I get after the conversation, I get into a very, very stylized, template-based conversation structure.
Yeah.
And so I know what I'm trying to do. I know how I want to talk. But I'm going where I want to go. And I'm going down a path that I want to go down, and I'm asking the questions that I know I want to ask,
right.
and I'm asking different types of questions. A lot of people don't even think, what do you mean different types of questions? There's like almost 10 different types of questions. You got to make sure that you're being fair when you ask a question. When we talked about earlier, like, how are you? I said, hey, Jim, how's this afternoon doing for you? So
that's specific.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want people to sit there and look at the sky and be like, how am I doing? Like, how's anybody doing?
Hey, what kind of problems do you have in your business right now?
My problem in my business
not you. I'm talking about that's a general question.
Like, yeah, this is the top of the.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'll actually let's go ahead and do this. There we go. But if this is the time,
all right.
Yeah. So what is your problem? Well, let's first say that we don't even tell anybody what you do. You work for your main gig is Lendio, correct?
So my main gig in my mind, if I was to get a big old fat chest plate tattoo of what I do, I'd say I'm a business finance educator.
Right.
And so people who are in business from startup to 20-year businesses,
that's the problem you solve.
Yeah, they oftentimes don't know where to go get capital for that particular need at that particular time in that particular amount. I think that they ask the wrong question to the wrong people. And my job is, as a business finance educator, is to ask them the questions that they haven't been asked, be tough with them when they give me lame or weak answers.
Yeah.
And then understand that traditional bank financing is 2 of 15 options. Educate them on what the other options are for a person like them facing this similar situation, bringing the same amount of data or clay to the table.
Yeah.
And then I say, you didn't know about this one. Let me tell you about the pros and cons. You didn't know about this one, pros and cons. You didn't know about this one, pros and cons. Now that we have all the options, now we have available options for you, let's rethink what you're wanting $1 million, but I think what's more reasonable is $250 now, $500, then another $250 at the following.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, I've never thought about it like that. Like, that's what happens when people talk to me. I've never heard that. Right. I've never thought about that.
Well, you're educating them at that point.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I have 2 functions. So I represent the Lendio brand for a good buddy of mine, and as a commercial or as a business lending broker. What that means is I can take on any transaction from, call it $50,000 short-term loan to get somebody the goods that they need in their business to sell right now, up to $55 million commercial real estate lines of credit to people who have $40 million sitting in the bank. So, but they couldn't figure it out on their own, and they asked me, "Hey, can you figure this out?" And I say, "Yes."
It's similar. It sounds to me like a quick, painless way. As painless as it can be, way to get some quick capital.
I don't like the idea of quick. I think that capital providers have ruined it for capital providers when they say everything has to be fast. I don't think everything has to be fast.
Right.
So what I do in the quick thing, in terms of what I do for people, what they really, really get by working with me, is in the game of chutes and ladders, a slide will take you down and a ladder will cut off a corner. Mm-hmm. By coming to me, they take the ladder and they cut off the corner of time. They instead of going to 6 banks that are not a fit, I send them to the 2 banks that are a fit. Instead of sending them banks at all, I send them to the private money lender.
You're the F&I of business.
Yeah, exactly. So my job is to say, you shouldn't be talking to this type of capital. You should be talking to this type. Here's the name of the person, and go talk to them. They're already expecting your call. I'm cutting off sometimes months off of people's business horizon timeline, things that are urgent, need the money now, because I've had people go to 13 different banks over 6 months and got rejected to every single one for 11 different reasons. Mm-hmm. And I looked at them and I asked 3 questions. I said, well, we can't go to a bank. We have to go to this place. And I've already texted them. They've already want the deal. They're like, what kind of capital? I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah.
And we did a $4.3 million commercial real estate loan that the guy didn't even think was possible.
Wow. So let me tell you that. I mean, so what is your problem?
Yeah. Dan? So my problem like I've already come in here. We're talking sales. We're talking, cars. We're talking, talk tracks. We're talking coaching. I'm talking Lendio. I'm talking my day job with Harvest Small Business Finance. My business problem as a salesperson, is I want to help everybody that I talk to. It doesn't matter that they will never become a client of mine as a borrower or an applicant. If they've got a staffing issue, I'm trying to connect them up with a person who's looking for a job. If they've got a cold call, or if they've got a pitch that's dog meat, like, hey, I have some time. I'd like to be able to help you with your pitch. Trying to place, $50,000 to 50 million. So I'm not, like, my blinders are off.
Yeah.
I am not myopic in my focus. I am all over the map, as I say. I'm chasing. I hate the term chasing squirrels or chasing shiny objects. I think that's a negative connotation, but I really and truly,
you're a multifaceted professional.
Yeah. And so
I get it.
It pains me to know that somebody needs X, an aspirin, not a Tylenol, to fix their pain, or they need a particular type of capital, not another type. And I can fix them instead of just walking away and saying, good luck. I feel compelled to provide my assistance.
Well, I think when you're on a one-to-one basis with people like that, personal relationship, in B&I, when you get up and you talk to the entire group, I always try and coach people and tell them that, be singularly focused in your presentation. Mm-hmm. What's the big tip of the spear? What's the conversation starter that, everybody doesn't need to know about everything you do in your business.
Correct.
All we need to know is how to refer you. What's the one thing that always gets you business? Okay. And just concentrate on that, and one of the biggest problems and challenges I have, I guess, would be similar to yours, is that we're kind of multifaceted animals. A lot of people come in here, they know I run and are a part of different kinds of businesses.
Yes.
So, in this day and age, I think it's a lot more forgivable to be a part of different multifaceted professions.
Yeah, agreed. So this is you touch on a very, very interesting thing. The context for a networking group, like a BNI, like a LaTip, like a lot of things, where you're walking in the room and the context for the room is tell people what you do, and they will come and either buy from you or they'll tell people about you so they can buy from you.
Right.
And what's interesting is in the BNI context, and what I think is the message is just could be tweaked just a little bit better. We don't say who we work with. We often just say, what I do is this. And when we say what we do, most people are able to just sort us out. I don't need vitamins. I don't need a title lawyer. I don't need this. They're thinking about the singular thing that the person is saying. Whereas if we talk about who we work with, that actually allows people to like tighten the net or become a little more focused. Like, oh, that's what you like. So I don't want to tell people that I'm a business finance educator and I do all these things. I really don't want to say those things. I try and come up with a little different spin every single week. But what I really, who I work with are bankers who can't fund their clients and business owners who can't get a loan from their own bank. Like, if you know either one of those things, that narrows it down to, instead of me telling you what I do, who cares? Mm-hmm. I just generally believe that people don't care about what I do. Who I work with becomes infinitely important, which is a different subject in the entire sentence. Like, who I work with are this person over here. What I do has nothing to do with this person. Mm-hmm. They're merely the person I just generally engage in conversations with. Do you recall the pitch that I presented today?
No.
I said, who here has a business banker? Mm-hmm. And
that's right. Yes, I do.
Okay. Six people raised their hand and a bunch of other people were lying and they didn't raise their hand. And I said, who here knows a business banker? And another 3 or 4 people, I think they were starting to catch on at this point. Another 4 or 5 people, raised their hand. It's like, okay, all I want for you to do is you have my phone number, text me your name, and let me know that you'll try and connect me to your business banker.
Right.
Not one text I've gotten today. So it's an interesting thing when I made a very, very specific ask for things that aren't actually money. Like if you say, hey, I want to talk to a business owner who wants to, who has never used a voiceover artist and wants to hire one for a commercial, people in the audience are like,
yeah, it's very specific and very, I don't even know where to begin.
Right.
We've had a similar issue back when we held a lighting seat. Okay. I made it as simple as possible. I would bring in a shoebox light, which if you go to any light pole in any parking lot, aside from the very slim, low profile look of an LED, typically what preceded those was something that looked like a shoebox. So I would bring in pictures and actual shoebox fixtures that were huge. And I would say, if you see this, that property manager is a good contact. I didn't blame the group because they still didn't get it. It wasn't easy enough, right? Saying business banker in a one-off is a little bit tough. I think if you, and this is the same kind of conversation, your best ally and tool is going to be frequency and repetition. Business banker all day long, every time you get up. I just want to talk to business bankers. That's my biggest ask. You know, whoever your banker is, that you have a checking account. I mean, I don't care. Even your personal banker, they've got somebody in that place that can do business with me.
I'm going to have to I'm going to make a mental note of that because I didn't, I thought about that. I wrote it down. I was like, I don't want to just say banker because it's not that, but the business.
And you go with whatever resonates, man.
It's just,
because you know what? You got 50 people in that room. They're all looking. We have a very intentional group at that. Very intentional. For a B&I chapter, especially as big as ours, you have to be. So whenever I tell people, I said, you know, if you're not engaging in the group, if you're not showing up week after week, not only is your billboard down, I said, look at it like your billboard, okay? Look at a billboard in general. You've got 1.8 seconds to look at a billboard. That message better swing the hammer.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating thing. I again, from the sales coaching,
that's marketing right there.
Yeah, it's from the sales coaching perspective. Like when it comes to words matter and all these things, I sit back and I listen to in the room. I think it would be an interesting endeavor to have everybody who's got a very, very particular, I want to meet this person at this company. Would somebody just write down all of the names of all of the particular people that you want to meet?
Well, they do that.
Okay. Yeah. I want to have access to that list. I want to call those companies and source people, those businesses. And like, if you want to talk to Edward at, Crane Automotive or whatever it is, give me Crane Automotive. What's your website?
Well, it's twofold because you can ask specifically for people. And the more specific, they call it specific is terrific, right? And then all of a sudden, what problem do you solve? Okay. And that's the big, we had a telephone system guy in there for years, Bob Taylor. And for week after week, I mean, he started this thing asking for this particular ask, I don't know, probably a couple of years into his membership. And I think it paid off for him every single week. He says, I don't care. I'm looking for old, dirty phones, old, dirty phones, old, dirty phones over and over and over again. Okay. It's audio branding in a way. Okay. Guess what I'm looking for? And everybody would recite old, dirty phones. It was simple. They could see it. Wordsmithing, word pictures.
Yeah. Right? So generally speaking, he knows that physical object has some sort of relationship to the challenge that any business owner might face. And so when I just want to meet the manufacturer of the green RC cars, and I want to sell them my thing, but we don't know how they're doing their thing now. Like the person who has an old dirty phone, they're like, we pay $11 a month for a phone bill. We get like 3 inbound phone calls a month. We don't even care. Like, so what if I have an old dirty phone? It doesn't translate into context for a sale. May turn into context for conversation, but
you just want to start a conversation. But it's up to me to sell it for you.
Right. But I think again, back to the list, I think arrogantly or confidently, I think if I was to get a list of all the people that the room actually wanted to contact, I would have better than 60 or 70% hit rate to get a meeting
for those people.
Yeah.
Well, Ashley Bright sends out that list every week.
I'm still waiting to get on the email chain. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
So like I'm delayed on the things.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So, oh my gosh, what if I just started just patrolling that list and just giving all of the referrals? Like, come on now.
That's part of the how do you build your credibility, especially, it's giver's gain mentality and all that stuff. But I mean, that's
funny.
In your case, and this kind of popped into my head, and this is where my talents lie in simplifying, like helping people see the label outside the bottle they're in, and I'm looking for business bankers that are looking for better options or better loans or whatever, you know what I mean? Second chance. That's what's kind of what you're doing. Hey, this is probably not for us, but hey, I know I can help my customer by handing them off. Okay. I'm looking for bankers that have hit the dead end with certain, and that's where we come in.
Yeah. And when outside of 40 seconds or even inside the 40 seconds, if I call a business banker, the conversation is not much different than my pitch in the room. But it's a slightly different one because I talk to them and what they miss out on by not having somebody like me. And I say, hey, we've never met. This is a bad time. Just a couple questions. Just perspective. I've never worked with anybody at your bank. Your process when somebody's not a fit for your bank, like what do you do? Do you have like one go-to person? Do you do nothing? Do you just tell them no? Or do you have like a stable of people that you can refer people out to?
Well, do you lead the witness like that, or you just simply ask, hey, what do you do when you get...
No, I lead the witness.
Really?
Yeah, in a situation, because I don't want them to thinking like of all of the things that they've ever done. I want them within those context of those three situations. What do they do? Like those are very, very clear lanes.
Right.
You know what? My bank, we're in the business of not referring anybody out. You know what? I've got one loan broker. I send him all my stuff. I let him figure it out. You know what? I'm actively trying to figure out a way to help my clients out. I'm always looking for new lenders. Whatever they tell me is fine.
You're trying to make their life easier in a way.
I say, I'm the easy button for you.
Right.
If you have a client that you want to stay at your bank, I'm not a bank. I'm never going to take your client. If you want your client to have the easy button, you send them to me no matter what it is. I'll figure it out for you. And then, let you keep your bank client and go get them the capital that you want them to have so their business can grow inside your banking relationship with them. So it's a finer tooth. It's a much, it's a very honed message. It's a very honed message. It works. But inside the room of that, like a BNI space, I totally understand my role. And if you look at some of the people, what they do, they're going to get one or two leads a year, but those one or two leads a year could be year makers.
Yeah.
And so I think that more than anything, that's a lie. I think by me being in the room, one, it gets me out of the house. It gets me in a room I could just be in my co-working office and just on the phone and email all day long, not talking to people, but it gets me out in the world. So there's a perishable skill around networking. So I keep the skills up. I do genuinely like people, and I like to hear, like, there's probably 7 or 8 businesses inside that room that I never knew existed. I was like, oh, this is just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And so I get to be around that. I get to hear their conversation. I can have those little pity pat conversation, how's business, but really, really how's business.
Yeah.
And if there's no doubt in my mind that, it's already happening. So like, there's no doubt in my mind that people are going to see me like, okay, here's a guy who knows his stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, I don't find my pitch to be abrasive. I don't find my pitch to be, maniacal or it's not going to be threatening for anybody in that room to introduce me to somebody who's struggling.
Right.
Because there's no other, I'm a life raft. There's no other life raft out there. If they haven't got it from their own bank and they don't know where to go, there's no other raft. And so that's functionally what I began.
Why don't you describe it like that? You just painted a picture.
Yeah.
I'm a life raft for business bankers.
That is a good metaphorical use of it, but I think it's when we use cliche or we use really, really big nebulous metaphors, people can get lost in the metaphor, and so I think there's a place for that. I think there's also a place for I want something in 40 seconds. I want something that is.
I'm a mulligan for business bankers.
Yeah. Easy button mulligan is actually I've actually used that.
Yeah.
when I get to my point where I do my presentation on the business capital options, I think there's going to be a lot of light bulbs that go off in the room. They're like, oh, I didn't even know those things existed. Now I understand why I need to tell Dan.
Actually, you and Barry have a lot in common, especially with Aflac, because Aflac is a supplemental insurance product. Mm-hmm. You're a supplemental banking product.
Alternative capital. Yeah. So I am in the space of alternative capital.
Yeah.
I am traditional capital is what I call the bank loan.
Yeah.
So we're a non-bank list. We are same loan structure. We're an SBA lender. My main job. But yeah, Barry is one of those things, like people think that Aflac is one thing, but it's actually lots of things.
Yeah.
People think that business lending is one thing. Like it's a loan, it's a term, it's a rate. It is absolutely not that. Capital, every piece of capital is a loan. Sorry, every loan is capital, but not every capital is a loan. There are capital instruments that are not actually or technically a loan.
Yeah.
And so people get misunderstood, like, oh, I need to, shop for the best rate. There's all kinds of arguments where people who ask for the rate, they don't know what they're doing. And they're probably asking for the wrong thing. So anyway,
that's getting into the weeds. For surface level picture painting opportunities for you to, it's like there's an alliteration type of approach that I've been, as we're talking, not that I'm not listening to you, because I am, making business bankers' lives better. You know what I mean?
So alliteration is absolutely, it's age old. And I think it works in the right context. I toy with alliteration at times. And I understand the power of it. When I'm trying to be clear and concise, I try not to get people distracted with my rhyming scheme. Mm-hmm. And again, that's more marketing, I think, can be rhyming scheme and alliteration and kind of buzzy and cool sounding. But when it's like me talking to a room of people who don't know what I do, I got to keep it just really, really easy, really for them, for the room to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're in the context of 30 seconds, you got to swing the hammer as best you can.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that with BNI, you're buying a weekly spot, radio spot, if you will, that you got to refine that message. I don't care how many spots you buy. If the message is off, it's not going to resonate.
100%. So my problem I mentioned earlier, which was I'm the opposite of myopic, which is I'm looking at everything. Did you know that I got fired from the SBA? Did I ever tell you that?
Mm-mm.
So I worked at the SBA, the Small Business Administration, the federal government, in 2020 during the pandemic. I was working in the EIDL processing department.
Okay.
True story. My boss came to me, I knew her, so she got me the job. And so like 10 months in the job, she's like, hey, I love you. I love your family. And I have to fire you. And I said, why? She's like, you're the worst government employee I've ever had. And I said,
it's a compliment.
We actually, absolutely. She's like, I was like, worst government employee ever? And I answered a question with a question. And she's like, Dan, you want to help every single person and you want to fix our entire system.
Yeah.
I can't have you doing those things. You're going to blow your brains out. You're going to burn out. This is not the place you're going to retire. Go get a job in sales. And so
have you've seen The Incredibles, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. When he's working the insurance job.
Yeah.
You're taking down all the bureaucracy.
Yeah. The notion and idea of a TPS report drives me crazy. I'm about Kaizen, which is the Japanese term for process improvement. And so I'm if there's a way to make things better, I try and find it. I had one of my best managers in the car business. He's the late Don Butler. He was amazing. Taught me so much. Would just really every single time he talked to me, he gave me the straight information. Almost fired me a couple times, but the best compliment that he ever gave me, and I haven't said this in a long time, and it's kind of touching. I think it's weird, but it's a touching compliment. He says, Dan, I love the way you sell, and damn, if I could have a whole sales floor full of a bunch of the smartest, laziest people like you, I would rule the world.
Smartest, laziest people.
He's like, you cut all of the damn corners that you can cut. And it drives me crazy that you have all this success.
But aren't they kind of trapped in their own mindset? In that
he's
business?
like, hey, I appreciate you, improving some things. We do sell the Toyotas, but I need you to do it our way a little bit more. And so I was the smartest, laziest guy at a car dealership, and I just killed it. And I would not show up on the last day of the month to get a bonus. They just drove them crazy.
Well, I had instances where a customer just knew what they want. And they didn't want to take it for a test drive. Did they drive it? No. You got to get them to drive. They don't want to drive it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jim, you're not going to sell that. Okay.
Yeah.
15 minutes later, here's the deal.
Yeah, 100%. I believe that if you're in business, you have to take cash, check, credit card, Venmo, Bitcoin if you can. Which is to say that some people will come in. There is the normal process. People drive and then they buy. People demo, then they buy. People taste and sample, then they buy. And if all you did was make every single person do your process, if you only took Venmo, if you only took checks, if you only took coins, you're going to lose a lot of customers. That process right there, if they don't drive, we won't write them up. Well, some people, they take that as a personal affront and they will go to the next dealership and they'll say the exact same thing. So I find that very interesting. There's a book. It's called, it's by Ben Gay III. He's a famous sales closer. He was a buddy with Zig Ziglar. And his book is called "Why Are You Making It So Hard for Me to Give You My Money?" Something like an acronym.
Yeah.
And in that, I mean, there's a time and a place where the seller needs to follow the process, and there's a time and a place where the buyer needs to follow the process. But there's a time and a place where the company trusts the seller to navigate within the reins and do the best for the company. So I was very good at that.
What I loved about the business is that the general manager I worked for in the beginning, when he would get upset with the desk because they would teach their way, and he had some old sales dogs in there, old car dogs, and he, all of them were experienced guys. Mm-hmm. But his biggest thing is that, look, selling cars or selling anything, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. There's a fundamental road to the sale. There's a way that, the company wants us to do it. But if you've got a customer that comes in, hey, we're buying the car. I would have a couple of customers that wanted to buck the system mm-hmm. and not do the process. And I would say, you know what, look, it would make me feel better if you drove the car. Just drive it in the parking lot. To get a feel for it, make sure it's the right thing for you. Okay. Yeah. It helps me sleep at night. Yep. I said, but with that being said, I understand if you just want to get this done. So I could say, hey, remember when I told you,
So I have I do several things. Okay. One of those things I do think better than okay is I coach Little League Baseball.
Yeah.
I played college baseball, and I realized I was not that good. I was going to add another year to my education. I didn't want to do that, so I quit. It's okay to quit things sometimes. Like people say, oh, you should never quit. You should absolutely quit some things. Anyhow, I had my team this last year. I had a couple players, and they were very good. And they would say, hey, can I bat lefty or can I bat righty? Can I bat opposite? And I'd say, are we up big or are we down big?
Yeah.
And when they would give me the answer, I said, okay, if one of those two situations, then yes. What did you do in your last at bat? Have you hit a double today yet? No, then you can't switch up. What is telling them is meritocracy is real. And at the car dealership and any sales floor I've ever been in, there's a time and a place where a manager cannot allow somebody to deviate from the script, the process, the plan. And it's when somebody's not good.
Well, they got to get the fundamentals.
Yes.
I call it, in voiceover, it's finding your voice. You're literally in voiceover finding your voice based on the fundamentals. Same thing with sales.
Yeah. And so, when I was at the car dealership, if I was in the top 5 people, I had autonomy to do whatever I wanted. Yeah. And I would follow other people's customers after they left the showroom out into the parking lot. And I would close them in the parking lot, and I would bring them back in.
And you'd split the deal?
And I'd split the deal. I'd work 5 minutes. I'd split the deal. And it just drove people crazy. And my boss, and people would freak out, like, why are you letting Dan go close deals in the parking lot? And he says, look at the board.
Yeah.
They could do what it
wants. It's working.
And then there were times where I was in the bottom 5, for any number of reasons, and I would take my turns. I wouldn't go in on turns. I would just focus on my business. I would focus on my phone calls, because Don, this legend, when I was not producing and I wanted to deviate, he's like, Dan, you can do one of two things. You can produce and deviate, or you can not produce and not deviate. Very, very simple stuff. And so with that, I kind of try and again, scripts, sales, I try and stay with the stuff that is proven to work. And get back to some of our little.
That's your style.
Yeah. How are you doing today? That's proven not to work.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it's the way you ask it. But I mean, I'm not saying it's proven to work either. Yeah. But I'm saying a lot of people in any given, you're getting into sales in any business, the managers. A lot of the time, I have a theory about car business managers.
Oh, okay. I'd love to hear it.
A lot of them have come up from the floor. They work their way up to the desk, and they treat people the way they were treated on the way up. The cycle isn't broken.
Right.
So in my experience, because I started in my 30s selling cars, I would simply say, I get what you're trying to do. You don't have to browbeat me. I've been around the block a few times. Okay, I understand I'm new at this. I'm not a 20-year-old kid who doesn't understand that he's new. But sometimes you got to explain to somebody the reason why I'm teaching you this is that you got to build the foundation before you can build the house.
I had a situation with my boss recently. There was a person in my company who is no longer at my company, and in an email copied to a lot of people, he absolutely undressed me.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And if I was living in any other body than mine, I would have been like, oh my God, this is such an HR violation. This guy is, I'm going to sue, and this guy needs to be fired and all that stuff. And my manager, she talks to me about it. She's like, I really want to apologize for this guy, what he said. That was inappropriate. He shouldn't have done that. And I just wanted, how are you feeling? I was like, listen,
how are you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. She actually was curious, are you going to, what she was really asking is are you going to sue us?
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I was in the car business for 10 years and she didn't know that. I said, I have been undressed verbally in public in front of my peers no less than 36 times, to the point where I was trembling of my ego was just destroyed, and I bounced back. I'm fine. I can handle it. I'm a big boy. I don't take things personally. And I don't think I think that not enough people get undressed publicly by their boss or by somebody in their company.
But I mean, what purpose is that?
You know what? It taught me a lesson.
Did it?
They absolutely taught me lessons. There were times where I was 100% out of line, 100% too big for my britches, and 100% thinking that my poop didn't stink, and they needed to. I'm a smart guy and I'm clever, all these things. And they needed to show they used me as the example to teach everybody else.
But that works in the military because you can't go anywhere.
Agreed. And so it's not for everybody, not for everything.
Not good for culture.
It is, I think that's debatable.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it gave me tolerance, thicker skin.
Sure, I understand what it did, but I mean, still, you can have a firm conversation behind closed doors.
I've had many of those as well. But my boss Don, and he was one of the guys who just undressed me a couple times, and he would pull me aside and he said, Dan, you're the natural leader on the floor. People follow you. You were setting a bad example, and I had to tell everybody that what you were doing was not okay. So now I won't have to have that same conversation 42 times. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? It's 100%. He's like, are we good? I was like, we're good. It's like, I appreciate you allowing me to make an example of you. You know I love you. You know you rock. Just stop doing that, please. So little things like that, I got it. My father spanked me one time. And people violence is never okay. It's I don't know that it was never okay. I never did that thing again.
But that's and typically, I guess, public dress downs.
I don't think that they're as bad. I think that people are way more resilient than we give them credit for.
Absolutely.
It's not that big of a deal at the end of the day.
But I've seen but you're going to reap what you sow. Those cultures will look that way if that's the way it's done. I mean, I've seen cultures in the car business that are not like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that you would never ever see a manager do that. Yeah, does there have to be discipline and people brought back in line? Of course, but it's done in a certain way that's respectful and human, and that you see the culture result because of that.
100%. And so again, I said earlier that sellers are our own worst enemies. And I think the car business is a key example. We are our own worst enemy for what we do to the customer. It's also for what the customer does to car sales, like how they've
been trained though.
They've absolutely 100%. So when you were selling cars, were you ever in a place where you had to wear like a certain color shirt? Or where you had to wear a tie no matter what?
No, I was past the season in that business when I sold Honda. We had to wear polos. Okay. And then I went to Mercedes. I was actually proud to wear. I wanted to wear the polo with the Mercedes logo on it.
It's in the car business, and for all the people who don't know, you don't just start at Mercedes. Generally speaking,
I mean, the way our dealership went, they hired people fresh out of Best Buy.
Okay, so fair enough. Yeah. So in one of the dealerships I worked at, it was a major brand that rhymed with Rithia, and we had to wear ties. We had to wear white or light blue shirts, and there was this rule there. This is again true story, no bullshit here. There's this rule that if one of the managers and you're desking a deal doesn't like your tie,
oh my gosh,
they got to cut your tie.
And that's the you sell your first car thing, right?
I had that happen too a bunch of times as well. So I had this tie that my mom bought me when she was in Italy. This tie that I loved. It was this green tie. It was awesome, and I said, and I did that. I literally did the Chris Voss on them, and I didn't realize it. It's like, dude, you have to get one person who likes that tie, or we're going to cut it. And I was like, cut my tie. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, we got to cut your tie. You got to find someone who likes it. It's like, my mom bought me this tie. Like, how am I supposed to cut this tie? Like, I remember, this conversation. And so as it turns out, I made a deal. It's like, hey, I'll take my lunch break right now. I'll go home and I'll get a new tie. This tie, I need to not cut in half. He's like, get out of here. Go take care of your tie. Yeah. So whatever. I figured it out. I didn't want that tie cut. Fast forward weeks later, my boss, and I'll just keep the names out of it because those guys are still probably all alive if they haven't drinking themselves to death. So my boss was a little guy, but he was a black belt in Taekwondo. Yeah. And the GM was this huge guy. Like he's got to be 6'7", 285, just a big mountain of a guy. And he was so smart. The GM and my manager were both so smart, and they had like a little animosity. I don't know what it came from, but I always like sensed a little animosity. And Chip was just an absolute firecracker. And one day, the general manager says, I don't like your tie. And I'm standing right there. And the manager had the scissors like, hey, I saw the tie earlier. I was going to say something about it. And I swear to God, they get into a mano a mano, like the music from Star Trek where Captain Kirk goes after the guy. Mm-hmm. They're going after it, and one guy's going after with his scissors. Like the other guy's getting his hand in the way, and like he's doing like leg sweeps in the showroom over this tie. So like that's the car business. He got cut. He got a couple stitches, but and you know what we did the next day? We went back to work. I'm just saying that people have thicker skin than we give them credit for.
Oh yeah. But again, I just think ultimately it's not good for the business to create that kind of a culture.
No, absolutely.
Okay. All you're doing is living up to the reputation at that point.
And so have you ever had people ask you did I get a good deal in a car?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I always ask a question like, did you drive the car home? Yeah. Then you got a great deal.
Yeah.
How do you know? I was like, because I can't do anything about it right now, and I don't want to, poop in your Cheerios. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing when people ask how to go buy a car. Like, how do I go in there and beat them up, Dan, and do all those things? We have a whole bunch of people who don't even know how to go buy a car, and I say, have you found a car that you fit in, that you've test driven, that fits your most basic needs, that does all of the things that you need to do in terms of gas mileage and towing horses and looking good and all those things? Like there's 11 different metrics that I think people buy cars with.
Yeah.
And so many people go out and buy a car, then they tell me, God, I just hate this car.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted this thing, but it doesn't, like it's a Honda, and you know how Hondas drive, or it's a Toyota, you know how Toyotas drive, or it's an interesting thing how we've made people this, it's not even a passive aggressive relationship with car sales transactions. It's an aggressive situation. Aside from like Carvana, I just recently bought a car on Carvana. I never thought I'd do that.
Yeah.
But they had the exact car that I wanted. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what the price is. And I can just, all right, whatever.
It's no hassle.
It's zero hassle. I don't think they're going to make it long term. It's too easy. Like there's something wrong. But
there's too many moving parts and variables.
Yeah.
You know,
car buying, you can, if you're off on your used car fleet for a month on Blue Book changes, you can be an owner of $1 million of inventory and you're stuck on used cars. So used cars is a tough thing, but new cars is obviously just, it's a giveaway game, unless it's a super rare in demand car.
Or in market what we're in right now, where everything's lean.
Yeah, it's a weird. This car right now, cars, it's a weird market. So
Yeah.
So getting back to my multiple focus, you said you were also in a multiple focus. You have that kind of as a multi-dimensional thinker.
Yeah.
You get your hands in a few
I'm
things.
a drummer.
You got a lot of things going on. Like, how do you guys do that? It's unbelievable. So how do you rein in your driftiness and get more into your focus, like one task, one time, and one client, one time, or one objective, one day?
I've accepted the fact that I'm just good at juggling. I've tried doing the focus thing, and it's never worked out.
Okay.
The car business was focus. I had to relinquish everything else I did, and I went all in. It didn't work out for a reason. So when I got out of the car business, I did something else that wasn't really much of a fit, but involved everything I have always done, which was marketing, the telephone business, oddly enough, a little bit of sales, biz dev, things of that nature. And then when that ended, I decided to do my own thing, self-employment, which at the time was starting another company with a former business partner. But mainly what paid the bills was voiceover video production, a little bit of podcasting, everything I did in radio. Because in radio, you had to wear multiple hats.
Yeah, of course.
So I was kind of trained like that by nature.
Yeah.
And to have it I don't know what my life would be like if I didn't do a lot of different things. But I mean, I've actually really focused it down in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
it was a lot worse.
It's good. I can focus mine down a little bit, but I have an allergy against repetitiveness. Like I could never work in a manufacturing plant.
Right.
It just, I'm always trying to figure out like a better way. It's not good for me. So thank you for answering that. I will need to focus some things, but I really do. Like I get purpose when I coach somebody in sales. I feel like I'm just giving you a bunch of war stories here. Had a former sales client of mine call me up 2 months ago, and she says, Dan, I know you moved to Tennessee, and I've got this huge roadblock around sales. Can I tell you what my problem is, and what's your problem? Can I tell you what my problem is, and can you just kind of like give me what you would give me as just tell me what's going on? She did, and I gave her 2 things to do. And she called me back 3 days later and says, I want to really appreciate what you did and the advice you gave me. I did exactly what you said to exactly who you said. And I said exactly what you said to say. And I just sold $50,000 of services that I already created. And I sent them the PDF and they just wired me $50,000.
Yeah.
So I I was floating on air.
Yeah.
It was like I get purpose.
It's validation of what you said.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
I'm I get made fun of because of my old pals in the radio business called me, you know what you should do. And that I always had ideas and ways to look at scenarios differently and say, hey, what you're describing sounds like a problem. Here's a potential solution. You know what you should do. And they would just make fun of me incessantly.
So that's an interesting thing. So I am, if my wife, she'd say if I was a superhero, there's like 6, I could be like Captain Metaphor, and the other one is Captain Unsolicited Feedback. And so I really have to balance and watch out for when I give people what I believe to be the goods.
Yeah.
And if they're not ready to hear it, able to hear it, wanting to hear it, if they're not open,
So your wife is like mine. Why are you giving unsolicited advice? Yeah, my wife did that too. And finally, I said, you know what? I'm going to You're right. I'm going to qualify before I say anything to say, are you telling me this because you want a solution, or you just need an ear to hear it?
And I tell the people, I say the exact same thing. There's nothing worse as somebody who like a sales coach like me, like I used to be, to give people advice that is going to pull them right out of the fire, and they ignore it for any number of reasons. And so I don't want to give people advice if they're not going to follow it, because I don't want to waste my time. So I'll say, hey, I have a background in a particular topic that I think relates to what you just said or what you did or your website. If you're open to unsolicited feedback, I have some for you. If you don't take it, it's totally okay. If you want to ask me more, that's fine. But would you like to know what I observed? And they say, yeah, what did you? And I just tell them, this is what I observed. This is my experience of listening to you. This is my experience of watching this thing. This is my experience of reading your paper. This is my experience of being near you as a person and you're communicating with me. Yeah. And they're like, oh my God. And then I've had people tell me, I've been walking around like with that is my pitch or that's my website, typos on the website for 4 years. It's like I've been walking around with my fly undone for 4 years and nobody has said anything until you. I said, I just don't see any reason to let people walk around with their fly down.
Well, and that's our bane. But at the same time, we also have to accept the fact that some people just aren't going to listen.
100%.
I had this similar situation the other day. I found myself in the old trap of this giving unsolicited advice. I had somebody reach out to me, and they're putting on an event later on in the year, wanted to know if I would MC. I said, sure. He's like, well, it's a real lean budget, and would you'll be around these people. Okay, will I do it for experience or for free? Fine, whatever. He's like, even the speakers are doing it. I said, wait, why are they doing this for free, dude? And he goes, well, I'm just giving away the general admission tickets. I said, dude, what? Why? Why are you doing this? Yeah. And he goes, well, it's just, for the cause and blah, blah, blah. I said, doesn't mean you can't get paid for it.
Right.
I said, so let me ask you this. You've already put that notion out there? He goes, no. I said, stop.
Yeah.
Before you do that, charge something for these tickets. Okay. They're worth something. Yeah. Whether they're $20, $30, $40, $50 a head. Someone will pay that. I said, because if you're going to come to me and say, hey, this is a free event, guess what? Yeah, I'll take a ticket. I don't really need to go. There's no skin in that game. You've just told me that this is a worthless event.
Yep.
I said, you're signaling that all over this. So, dude, charge something.
Have I ever told you my free gold theory?
Yeah. No. I don't think you did. I remember you mentioned the gold, the wheelbarrows of gold.
Okay, so that was earlier. So I have a theory that if I was to have like an A-frame advertising, you put me on any corner anywhere in an English-speaking country, and you give me gold coins, real gold coins, and on my sign says free gold coins.
Yeah. No one will take it.
No one will take it.
And they've actually did that.
Really? I didn't know
there was somebody who actually was giving out $20 bills on a highway exit ramp.
Do you know why?
Because people think it's too good to be true.
It's that, and what the actual thing is, people know that free has strings.
Yeah.
Your email address, if you just give me your email address. Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm
going to give you my dummy spam email address.
I know what's going to happen when I give you my email address. You're going to give me this free thing, and then I'm going to get bombarded.
Yeah.
So free is not free. And one of my coaching points is when people are talking about product and services, if they actually have thing they're trying to do, like the tripwire or the loss leader, never say free.
Yeah.
Say it is included in the package. I've covered the cost of this thing. This thing is scholarshiped. I have, I've donated some of these things, but when you say free,
call it what it is. This is my way to get more information out of it.
Yes. But when we say it's free, it's not free.
But I mean, don't you think if you really went about it that brazen, this is my way to get you to get more FaceTime with you.
I totally would think that people would have honor and respect for that.
They would not respect it.
No, they would. They would absolutely honor and respect it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I call people, say, hey, Jim, this is Dan. We've never met before. So I'm a total stranger. This is a cold call. Like I'm not calling with an appointment or thing. We're working in the same industry. Did I catch you at a bad time? I'd like to just be able to chat about a couple things.
Yeah.
So I've identified myself as a stranger. There's no reason for them to start thinking, who is this? Is this the guy that that hurt my like? I let them know we've never met, so they can relax their brain.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about a couple things, and here's the slight context of why I want to. You're a CEO, you're an HR manager, you're a coach, you're a retiree. I just want to chat with you a couple things that I catch you at a bad time. That exact worded opener to a cold call, I would say 50% of the time, people say, you know what, I really appreciate your honesty.
Because it's refreshing. You shocked broker. You know what that means? Surprising broker?
Never heard of it.
Surprising broker means there's a portion of our brains that filters out all the messages. We get bombarded with 5,000 to 10,000 messages a day. It's an old advertising gimmick. So
it's actually interesting. I call
it look at your radio moments.
I love it.
Yeah.
So for me, when I teach sales, I use that. I call that the autonomic responses of freeze.
Yeah.
And then no factor.
Surprising broker. This rolls off the tongue and it's easily more memorable.
Fair. And in a sales coaching moment, I got to talk about the deep psychology of why things are going. Like all I'm trying to do in my first 15 or 20 seconds is get the metaphorical deer to stop chewing what they're chewing, look at me, and give me both ears.
I sometimes I've cold called people and said, you're probably wondering why you answered this phone call right now, and you're probably really regretting it, aren't you? Because I want to sell you something. But I'm going to tell you right now, my first impetus is to be an empathetic human and ask you, well, how are you really? How are you really? I want to know how you're doing. How's your day going?
I think that's legit. I think we're maybe 5 seconds too long, 8 seconds too long. But, but it's one of those things like, hey, this is a cold call.
Yeah.
Do you ever take cold calls? I used to use that one all the time. It was like, well, it depends what this is about. Engagement question.
Yeah.
And so, you are this and this and this and this, and this is what I do for those people, which is the context. Is this something we can talk about now for like 5 minutes? Maybe let me ask you a few questions, or can you point me to a place on your website where I can get some more information?
Yeah.
Or do you just want to book a time? Oh, let's just book a time. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Super candid. Yeah. But some of the people that we all get on the phone, we know they don't care about us or time.
Or they're just inexperienced.
They have not even looked. They're just calling a number.
Yeah.
And I think that's the worst. That again, we salespeople ruin it. When you're just calling a number of a business, and you're just calling a number of a homeowner, you're just calling a number of a retiree, and you're like, hey, this is what we're doing. I was like, first off, you don't even know what I'm doing, and you don't even know anything about me. So there's no context. Context is everything. And people in sales and marketing, they say personalization.
Yeah.
I think personalization is fourth after value for time, context, personalization.
That's amazing. Well, there you go. How do people reach out and find you, my brother?
Oh my gosh. Easiest way to get hold of me. Cause if you're a banker, if you're a broker,
right. A banker with better options.
Yes. If you're wanting to help your clients, but your own bank is saying no.
Here's your life raft.
Yes. I am the life raft for capital.
If your loan is the Titanic, you want to get on one of the lifeboats. I'm that lifeboat.
If your credit committee is crapping all over your deals, come see me. I've got the kitty litter. Best one, that might have been the best one actually. The best way to find me is I'm active on LinkedIn, and it's a super, super easy search. You can go to LinkedIn and type in Dan Rogers, Rogers, Dan Rogers, like as in Mr. Rogers, CRE, as in commercial real estate. And yes, my dad was Mr. Rogers.
There you go.
Get it all the time.
And you're not Dan Brown. Let's just
I'm not that guy either. Yeah. That's right. He was the author.
He is the author of the Da Vinci Code. At the beginning of the podcast, which I edited out, like I mistakenly called Dan Brown. It's also important to remember in sales people's names, which I've admitted it openly on this podcast. I'm really bad with names. How do I forget freaking Dan Rogers?
Right. I mean, when they said go do a podcast with Mark, I'm like, I have to go do this.
I know, Mark or Jaime, Joseph, whatever my name is.
All right. So this is the podcast. Yeah. LinkedIn, Dan Rogers CRE. You can connect up with me. Give me the context. If you're actually listening to this and you want to talk about some stuff, either sales or capital, whatever it is, just pick my brain on things. I'm happy. Just tell me that you heard me on the podcast.
That's right.
Jim McCarthy.
And he'll give you 25% off.
This week only.
Yeah.
So this was, I got to tell you, Jim.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that this is my first podcast?
No.
Yeah. So this is my first podcast, and I want to tell everybody out there that I really appreciate all the people who are going to listen to this. And if you actually do listen to this and you do find me and you say you found me and you heard it and you got a couple nuggets, And if there's something that you heard that you want me to expand upon more or debate me on, I'm happy to chat. But if people hit me up in the world, if they hear this is fantastic, if we can do this like a regular occurrence like that, I'm down. I think this is great it's great for us. I think this is fun for me. But I think there's also things that we're talking about that are meaningful and could be helpful to the right ears out in the world.
Of course.
If we can find those things and connect people to the dots.
Maybe you need your own podcast. I know a guy.
I mean,
I'm going to float that idea and sell that to you.
Do I have the voice for a podcast?
Yes, you do. I don't care what kind of voice you have. You don't need a voice. You just need the damn content.
100%.
So what Dan said times two, same thing goes for the What's Your Problem podcast. Hit us up. Go to the website. If there's anything that we need to be doing, anybody we need to have on here locally or even nationally. Hey, if you can play, I'm going to put a request out there. I want to get Ed Milet on my show. So if anybody knows Mr. Ed Milet, I know it's a long shot. I've tried to reach out to the guy before, even to do his podcast intro, but let me know. I mean, we're always on the lookout for anybody interesting to talk to, especially if they have problems we potentially can solve. What's Your Problem Podcast.com. And Dan, once again, thanks for coming out and hanging with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.